No, not even look. I don't remember getting one. Good evening. Tonight's Monday, March 24th, 2025. It's 5:30 p.m. And first up on the agenda, city update from Mr. Brian McCain, Chief of Staff.
Thank you, sir. I would like to take a moment to recognize the bravery and tenacity of the officers dispatch additional responding agencies, including Pueblo County Sheriff's Office and Colorado State Patrol, and civilian staff of the Pueblo Police Department after last week's shooting that had left a suspect deceased and 3 officers shot. We are happy to share that 2 out of the 3 officers shot last Tuesday have been released from the hospital. All 3 remain in stable condition. Please keep these officers and the department as a whole in your thoughts. We wish them well in their recovery and strength. The city and the Pueblo Police Department are incredibly grateful for the immense outpouring of support from our community members and businesses. The response has been nothing short of heartfelt and uplifting during this difficult time. Last Thursday, the department ShotSpotter gunshot detection system was expanded from a 3 square mile radius to now 6 square miles of coverage area to allow further detection of gunfire events. The city cleanups teams spent last week in Bessemer Central area concentrating on alleyways and abandoned homes. A house en route targeted for demolition contained substantial household waste, including 1,800 needles, 5 carts, and 14 tires requiring 2 dump trips. We just want to thank our crews for cleaning up others' trash and enhancing our city's cleanliness. Parks and Rec. Register for adult softball from March 1st through May 2nd. The team fee is $450. Leagues include men's upper division on Mondays, men's lower division on Tuesdays, co-ed lower division on Wednesdays, and co-ed upper division on Thursdays. You can register online at www.pueblo.us. El Centro del Quinto Sol, spring break is this week, March 24th through the 28th. And El Centro will have extended hours Monday through Friday, 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. And El Centro is located at 609 East 6th Street, 81001. And if you don't have any questions, that concludes my update, and I'll turn it over to the lobbyists.
Councilor Joe Latino, you ready?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Anybody else? Brian, you good? Here. Okay, I guess we're going to move on now to Gil Romero, Capital Success Group. 15-minute presentation. Gil, you there?
I am. Good evening, Council, Madam Mayor, Brian. Thank you for all the work that you're doing on a number of bills that are very impactful to Pueblo. Want to give you an update on the municipal bills and where they stand at this point. But I just wanted to give you a preview. We will be sending out a report sometime this week on the budget, the state budget, and some of the impacts that it potentially could have to the city. We're working on a couple of things. One is just to put on your radar screen is that currently in the state marijuana tax, that is split between the state and the city. There is a proposal that would reduce our 10% that goes to cities from 10% to 5%, which would have impact in Pueblo. So we're continuing our advocacy to keep that 10% there. We may not be successful with the Joint Budget Committee, but we'll certainly continue the fight when the state budget gets over to both the full House and the full Senate. So we will provide you a preview of what the budget looks like, and we will do a synopsis on those parts of the budget that we were following that specifically relate to impact to the city. With respect to the bills that we're following, just to give you an update on House Bill 1147, that's scheduled in the Senate for March 31st. I wanted to give you an update on that bill. There is a lot of concern on the Senate side on this bill. As you know, our police chief, our mayor, and others testified. Our city attorney testified on that bill. I think we're starting to get some traction in terms of impact to cities and violation of home rule. We did find out today in terms of sort of intelligence on this bill is that Senator Roberts, who's the chair of the Judiciary Committee or vice chair of the Judiciary Committee wants to do an amendment that would exclude one of his cities that he represents in his Senate district. And if that particular amendment passes, it will really present problems for that bill, because a lot of cities, and probably including Pueblo, would ask for that same exemption. So we're going to continue to follow that. There's another portion of that bill that we're concerned about with regard to dictating penalties. We understand that there's a senator that wants to remove that section, which is one of the most objectionable portions of 1147. So a lot of work is being done on that bill in the Senate. And we have a little bit of time on that one. As I said, that one's coming up on March 31st. Senate Bill 62 is on second reading in the House. Your city attorney has provided us a lot of information, fact sheets, and just stories about impact to the city of Pueblo on this FTA bill. We're continuing to work it in the Senate. We certainly think it could be a close vote. We know there's going to be a very robust debate on that bill. We'll keep you advised on our vote count. Currently, the Democrats are sticking pretty close together on this bill. If they stay together on this one, this will be a difficult one to defeat. We have talked to the governor's legislative liaison. The governor's office doesn't like the bill, but they haven't taken an official position of oppose. Senate Bill, House Bill 1206 was laid over for action only. This is the extreme indifference bill. We'll continue to provide updates on that particular bill and the amendments. House Bill 1276, this is the Municipal League bill, the FTA bond bill. For the most part, this is a really good bill, but it's in trouble right now. That bill was scheduled to be heard this week. It's been kicked over for another week. The problem, as I explained to Brian and to Carla Sykes, is that the one person that voted against House Bill 1147, Representative Clifford, has now decided that he may not support the Municipal League bill. Therefore, he's the swing vote on that bill. So that bill may die if he continues his opposition to the bill. But we've also been told that he's asked the Speaker of the House for permission to carry his own late bill, FTA bill. So we may see yet another bill being offered, and we're not sure what that bill will look like. I wanted to provide you a brief update on a bill that Councilor Maestri brought up last week, House Bill 1214. This is a bill regarding the use of prison beds and making some changes to lower class felonies in terms of that allocation. There's a lot of components, a lot of moving parts to this bill, including presumptive parole that should concern us. I would ask the city to hold back on this bill until the Wednesday hearing. This is coming up in 2 days, and let us get a report to you in terms of what the bill looks like after it comes out of committee. We'll have plenty of time to lobby if the city decides to take a position in opposition to the bill. There are a couple of other bills we'd like to talk to you, but we'll probably provide that in our weekly report to you to give you more detail. But those are the most pressing bills that we're following for you, and we appreciate all the work that the city is doing. The one bill that I would point out that if there's anything that the city can do, whether it's a letter from council or more pressure on the governor's office to take a firm position of opposition to Senate Bill 62. We've obviously talked to them about at some point when all of these bills get on the governor's desk, that he'll really take a look at them and really elevate, what we've been talking about in terms of really, taking away a lot of power and authority from home rule cities in these areas. So that's our report tonight, Councilor Gomez, and we thank you for the time.
Okay, council, anybody here? All good? Joe? All right, let's move on to the next item up is the Pueblo Economic Engine. Will you gentlemen please come up? I believe we have Mr. Thurston, a guest. I believe is it Derek Martinez? Is that correct? Okay, make sure you turn the mics on. Yes.
Again, City Council, thank you so much for inviting us to the work chair. It's a very interesting time and we all kind of share an excitement and a concern at the same time. Pueblo has always had unlimited potential of its growth. When you look at us having water for a population of 400,000, when you look at us being on I-25 and Highway 50 and Lake Pueblo, and I could literally go on for hours talking about what we have that others wish they could. And with that excitement of our potential, we're in a time right now that there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of concern. Why do we have so many empty buildings showing up in Pueblo? Why do we have so many people leaving Pueblo? Why do we have so many people that are frustrated with the system and what to do? Why are so many people that are coming here wishing that they would have known how difficult it is to do business in the city of Pueblo before they started the process? Now, having said all that, you know, it's not that it's the end of the world. When I look at what Pueblo is, we will always have the opportunity, but we really need to look at the recipe. We've got the greatest ingredients, we've got the greatest people, but let's look at the recipe. What recipe are we using to become a magnet, to be able to attract the people we have and then have them glad that they came here? And right now, that recipe is not really clear and it's not producing good food. We need strong leadership. We need people engaged that are decision makers in asking the same question. Why hasn't Pueblo grown? I mean, Dennis is younger than I am, but he's been around for a long time. Joe's even been a little bit longer. Mark's been around. Have we not all been waiting for that moment in time for Pueblo to get it? And what do we do day after day? Month after month, year after year, we sit there and we do what we've always done, and we're confused. So with the development of Pueblo, the number one engine is real estate. I don't care if it's on a local level. I don't care if it's on a state level. I don't care if it's on a federal level. Real estate and the decisions and the direction that we go makes it work or not work. And all you have to do is look at successful communities right now. I mean, even here in Colorado, there are communities that have the same governor with the same screwed up legislation that's been passed that hasn't made us a safe community, but they're thriving. You know, when I hear that it's not us, it's them, shows me a lack of leadership, because leadership says, you know what, we deserve better. We are better. We're not going to sit there and hang our hat that it's not our fault. We have a responsibility. And so I greatly appreciate the opportunity of talking about some of the engines, some of the different situations. And I'm going to have Derek talk. He's actually from Albuquerque, New Mexico. I thought he drove up, but he actually flew, which kind of made me feel a little better because it's a long drive from Albuquerque. And he's the developer of the property right next to Culver's. You guys have seen the Starbucks that is going in there. He's been doing this for a long time and he's already invested millions of dollars into this community. And when I get to the point of some of these examples, Derek will share what that experience has been like that I think City Council needs to be connected and aware of. You know, when you have a council that is sitting there engaged, having the same questions, it's really good to understand what's really happening. So, you know, when I look at the engines, we've got the real estate, like we said, is the backbone. We also have small business growth. Having a policy, having a structure of supporting and partnership our small businesses, not continuing look at them as an opportunity to raise tax money, because the tax money that is constantly being hammered needs to be by us expanding our tax base. When you look at the small businesses, why do you think there's so many empty buildings? They give up. It's like, it's not worth it. We're not going to go through, our margins are thin, ice thin right now. Then you look at industry. We are in a phenomenal place with the chemical D-mill plant that's getting ready to have a lot of opportunities. We've got the long rail that's getting ready to be opened up. But one of the interesting things about the long rail, which would not have happened if it wouldn't have been for urban renewal and the bonds that were passed at $100 million. I want you to picture for a minute, if that vehicle was not in place to do that, the difficulty in big industry right now, more than likely they would have shut the mill down. And we'd have a huge environmental issue that we're not going to be able to deal with. So we've got new life, but here's another reality. The reality is they're going to have a new long rail, but they're going to shut down the existing rail mill. They might have a net gain of maybe 50 jobs, maybe 60 of high tech, but it's not going to be the magic that we're sitting waiting that we need to really expand our tax base. Then you've got the chemical D mill, and all of you guys know that they're still paying a lot of the employees, but those employees are being paid with the job being done. What happens when they leave? You know, there's so many things that are right around the corner that is either going to make us or break us that we really need to look at it. We look at the tourism. I mean, we've got Lake Pueblo with over 4 million people a year coming. What are we doing to really enhance them to come into the city of Pueblo on their way out to the reservoir? What is it that we're being able to be creative with along those lines? So now I'm going to talk about 5 things that destroy growth and stability. They're the anti-engines. The first one is government real estate acquisitions of property. Look at the property tax that's going to go away. And when you look at property tax, yeah, it's a number. But what happens to our existing small tax base? Because we haven't really got the recipe of expanding our tax base. So we have all nice new offices and new buildings being bought and all this in prime locations that is taking away from other entities that could come in and actually generate a reason for people to come. You look at those numbers, and now you have to have an understanding when the tax base goes away, and with Excel, Dennis, am I not right? That's going to go away. And right now we're getting filled with money from Excel. But when that goes away, what's going to happen to the grandma and grandpas of this community, that they're in such a tight noose in even making ends meet now that the taxes are going to go up? Not the assessed value, because that's by state statute, but the indicator of mill levy of what the taxes need to be, because we have more emptiness. I want you to think about the insurance industry. The insurance industry, because of the crime, has become out of control. Companies are closing, they're pulling out. A lot of people aren't able to have insurance. Existing businesses coming in, all of a sudden they're walking into a world like, how come it's so difficult in Pueblo, Colorado? I understand there's crime, but there's crime everywhere, but there seems to be an additional layer of consequence that exists. So when you look at all of those situations of the government buying property, right now I look at the county. The county has their offices they've had for a long time. You know, when you get really smart with communities that are thriving, they go through and they become efficient. They don't expand to have more offices or more convenient offices at this level at a cost of opportunity. And I say that just in thinking about the recipe of decisions that you folks will be making of what priorities should we really have to get where we need to be. And where we need to get to is expanding the tax base. The expanded tax base versus higher taxes on our citizens as they stand. Now, I understand there was presentations made and it had the list of priorities, because I understand with the sales tax, 2 years of dipping into the reserves. And you never want to balance a budget off of reserve. When you balance a budget off of taking money out of the reserves, you're putting yourself into a deeper hole that sooner or later you've got to deal with the reality. And the reality is until we get more businesses, more companies, more things like that, we're really in a very difficult situation. So we've got 2 years of substantial pull from the reserves. Basically, and you guys know this, you might have 2 more, maybe 3 more years if you're lucky. Well, what happens with developers and companies and businesses that are looking at coming to a community? They don't just throw a dart on the wall. They really look at some serious stuff. And the serious stuff is the community going bankrupt? Are they getting to a point that they're going to be losing their reserves? Because when you lose a reserve, it's not like the federal government, where all of a sudden you can sit there and print money. Then the hard decisions happen. Then the employees get cut at massive levels. I mean, there's so many things when you don't have the money, you can't sit there and pretend like you do. Once that happens, the developers, the businesses, the companies, everything that we need to come in to expand our tax base becomes a deep canyon to try to bridge. So expanding the tax base, everything that needs to happen, every decision that's looked at needs to really have this. Are we increasing taxes on our existing people, putting a deeper burden on them? Or are we really becoming business friendly and developer friendly and company friendly and streamlining our processes to increase it? Because if it's not leaning towards expanding the tax base, sooner or later we will die. It's not a fear. It's not anything. It's a reality. And once that happens, and right now I can tell you firsthand that a lot of the businesses, companies, and developers, they're really concerned about Pueblo with Murphy's gas station. That was a very difficult situation. We worked very hard for over a year to get through the hoops of CDOT. Well, in 6, 8, 7 months, we were able to come to an agreement with CDOT that allowed Murphy's to move forward. And all of a sudden, getting ready to move forward, I get a call from the attorney from Murphy's, and he says, Randy, we're terminating the contract. And I says, what are you talking about? We've got all the stuff moving forward. They said, well, we just got a call from the bureaucrats in Pueblo. And I'm going to make reference to bureaucratic mud. Bureaucratic mud doesn't make any community grow and prosper. And we can all picture what that's like going through it. And we had the meeting and we were told of how it was going to be. And with the statement that don't worry about it because all these developers come and tell us if they don't get their way that they're going to go away and they're going to come anyhow. They have no choice. They're going to come here. Well, I can tell you firsthand, I don't know what world that's in, but these guys were totally professional in what they did. Long story short, we had a very serious, deep conversation that it came down to a key point that if we didn't get the authorization at that moment to get a building permit to build a project, the termination was going to be complete. I want you to picture Murphy's gas station. Have you guys noticed gas prices at all? Okay. Well, Murphy's whole focus is a gas wholesaler in a point of getting low gas prices, with the convenience store being just kind of an add-on. That's not their focus. They were part of Walmart's for years, and when they came, they had to be within a quarter mile for the demographics to know. They didn't do any additional inspections or anything along those lines. And what ended up happening is you've seen a lot of gas stations. You've seen a lot of things taking place. Well, Murphy's, when they came in, everybody dropped their gas prices at the same time they did. Nobody really noticed the difference. I was excited because they came way down from what they used to be, and you don't hear the complaint anymore about why is Pueblo the highest gas prices in the state. All of these little things make a difference. And so now we have more opportunity for our citizens that they've got some good competition with a good company. And it came within inches of it of going away. I'm going to let Derek share a little bit about his development. He bought, like I said, the land right next to Culver's, and he's been working on it there. So Derek, go ahead and kind of give the background and when you bought.
Thank you, Randy.
Let me
And
just
thank you,
interject a
Council, for-
second. Disregard the alarm that's going to go off in 23 seconds. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Council, for hearing us out. Yeah, so as Randy said, I purchased this land a few years ago with the intention to develop the land between Culvers and Mirror Street. I believe there's roughly 6 acres there. So we've started out with Starbucks, I'm sorry. And, you know, came into permitting process. You know, it took us probably, I'm going to say about 1.5 years to get through the permitting process, which again, with all due respect, it's a long time, and it was very challenging and very trying to get to that point. And there was just a lot of hurdles along the way. I've had to do countless traffic studies and just go above and beyond to get my permit to get that building going. In the process, I've almost lost Starbucks a few times where they just kind of were ready to give up on Pueblo and not do the deal. But fortunately, we got it done. We're built. We're probably 95% built out right now. And as as we're getting closer, the challenges we're kind of facing. I've been in touch with the city and Andrew Hayes and some of the powers that be there to. Starbucks will be needing their CO here sometime soon, but I seem to have got caught in the crosshairs between CDOT and the city in terms of certain infrastructure that CDOT wants to put in place and wants, I'm kind of the guy that's supposed to fund a street light and right in, right out intersection turnout there off of Acero Boulevard. And so, again, this is stuff that just came to me at the last of the project, realizing that this could cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, potentially even above $1 million. So, what I'm being fed here is, well, there's a potential that the city may, acquire funds to help offset those costs. But meanwhile, you're on the line to get it done. If you don't get it done, your certificate of occupancy gets held up and Starbucks doesn't get to open for business. Well, I mean, again, you rewind 1.5 years back, these people, we've all put a substantial investment here. They've got a building. Of course, they're not going to, sit there and they're not going to want to not open because of the COs being withheld from the city over street infrastructure. So again, I'm trying to cooperate. I want to, be a good, good steward of the community, help out and be a part of what's going on here. But I feel like it's a little unreasonable what I'm being asked. And so these challenges continue to mount. And as I develop the next lot and the next lot, which will come in time, next comes a street light and, all these other demands that I'm getting placed on me. So I guess my frustration is just in how do we get this system to where, they could streamline it to where we can be pro-business and, bring tax dollars into the city of Pueblo, and it could be a win-win for everyone without somebody like myself as a developer, burdening the costs of city infrastructure, streetlights, and so forth. Anyway, that's kind of.
Well, I want Derek also to make an announcement of something new coming over to that side of town.
Okay, so just a few days ago, I was able to finalize a lease with Chipotle. And so Chipotle will go next door to Starbucks if all goes well with the permitting process. So yeah, we're really excited about that. I think that's another good addition, and hoping that the process goes a little smoother and quicker, because I don't think they'll be able to wait 1.5 years for permits, or we will. So anyway, that's.
I really appreciate Derek, because a lot of people wouldn't have been as nice as he was with what he was faced with, that if I don't sign a performance bond that has a blank number in it, that you will not be given a CO that would have allowed him to be sued by Starbucks for non-performance. So again, when he's talked about being caught in crosshairs, this is one story. And if I had more time, you'd hear a lot more. But the reality is city council needs to be active in understanding a lot of this. There seems to be a disconnect from, again, there's great bureaucrats and then there's bureaucrat mud. The bureaucrat mud is what is really creating some challenges here. So when I look at the solution to that, urban renewal is the vehicle that needs to upfront the cost of the infrastructure. So the city advancing the money, knowing that urban renewal will come in because 25 years of the taxes that they'll be paying with the Chipotle and the Starbucks is just goes into the fund that then is money to come back and pay the city, and let urban renewal really negotiate with all of the partners, because it should not fall on this one man. I mean, there's a lot of other businesses operating there. It needs to be a viable economic formula to have the city advance to get this thing done so we can move forward, but then have them collect the money and through the taxes and pay through an agreement that the developer themselves are not caught in the middle of. So again, Roger, tell me how much time I have and I will leave
You're
them.
there. I just wonder if there's anything from the council in reference to questions. Dennis, that you have anything?
I wanted to, I agree with you on the speed that we have in the community and approving the permitting and all of that. But there's a couple of things I need to correct you on. One of them is the reserves that this city has been carrying. I did a study for the last 17 years, and our reserve was higher about 3 years ago at 26 million. And when we passed the budget this past winter, we were at 21 million,
Right.
which was the second highest reserve we've had in the last 17 years. The other thing, because I serve on Petco,
Right.
one of the things that people forget is that during when the steel industry went down the tubes, there was 3 major cities, Cleveland, Detroit, Buffalo, and Pittsburgh. They lost 45% of their population. Then there's cities that were similar to Pueblo, like Youngstown, Ohio, and Gary, Indiana. And I really give Petco the credit, or this idea that evolved 42 years ago, that Pueblo was able to keep its population. Gary, Indiana was the same population as Pueblo, around 100,000 population. Youngstown, Ohio was about 100,000 in population. And they got stuck during that steel decline, just like Pueblo did. We kept our population. In fact, in the recent census, our population is probably closer to 120 now. It's 110. But it's funny to give kudos to a town that's kind of been level,
Right.
but we could be like Gary, Indiana, and Youngstown, Ohio. They went from 120 population to 60,000 population. There is an example of 2 steel towns that we could be in. So I think that we should be given credit that we kept our population and our head above water. But I agree with you when it comes to permitting and to getting projects off the ground, and then bringing surprises at the last moment. We should be able to give you all the rules up front. So most people can't budget, but when you pull a surprise after getting involved in the bureaucracy for 6 months, and all of a sudden you're responsible for street lights or something else, most of the time business people can deal with that if they know that up front. But I think that's something that we do need to look at as to how do we speed up, the process in getting things approved and giving developers the right information up front.
Well, and Dennis, I agree with you, and that's why it's here. I think council needs to pass policy that connects these sort of challenges with coming in front of the council and not hit a brick wall. And again, like I said, I'm not going to take any more time with other examples, but as far as with, I'm very proud of the fact that Pueblo has been able to do what it's done. And over the past 5 years, the amount of money, when I was on council, it was 60 million, and now it's 130 million. There's been a lot of money come in, and now we're in the situation. I'm not going to sit there and say that it's great or it's bad. You guys can decide for yourself. You can see, you hear the same things that are being talked about out there. So other questions?
Okay, we have Sarah, Council Martinez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks for coming here today. I'm really excited about the Starbucks and the Chipotle on the south side, so I appreciate your hard work,
That's gonna
Mr.
be awesome.
Martinez. I
Thank
think
you
it's,
so
yeah, I
much.
think it's gonna be great.
Yes.
I wanted to correct, though, that this council, I think it has been active, Mr. Thurston, in terms of the development. Our own department director, Scott Hobson, with planning and zoning, has actually come before us before the council retreat in February to talk about the tension point between CDOT and the city and regional, specifically with highway access permits. And Mayor Graham had a brilliant idea actually around how to specifically invest in development or specifically for the access permits, potentially using other sources of funds. So we talked about that several weeks ago. We also talked about it in PACOG, where it was a joint city and county meeting, and then other smaller municipalities actually with CDOT at the table to see how we can streamline specifically the access permit. So I think that it's a bit unfair to say that council has not been active so far. I understand that it's a huge issue. I don't like hearing that it took a year and a half. I do think, though, I want you to know, and I want other developers to know that our staff are aware that they're working on it, that they're championing you at the table when we're talking about streamlining it and being more efficient and effective. So,
Of course.
I also want to say that, specifically with gas prices, the city and the city administration cannot control gas prices, no matter what people are saying out there. So we can't control gas prices. We are trying with the highway access permitting. And I also think that moving staff under one building will help be a little bit more efficient as well.
How many of you knew that he wasn't going to get his CO unless he signed a performance bond on council?
Explain the CO for the audience, please.
A certificate of occupancy
Okay.
for Starbucks to be able to open their doors to do business.
Okay.
So again, and Sarah, I agree, the city has been helpful, and I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus. We've communicated. It's not been the greatest communication, but they tell me they're aware and they're trying to figure out how they can fund or obtain funds to offset some of these costs. My biggest issue is that, we're here at the end of the road now. So a couple of months, if even maybe less, Starbucks will be ready to open their doors. And we still have not agreed on really anything other than that they want me to foot the bill. And number one, it's almost like a blank check because I don't know what I'm supposed to, how much this infrastructure is going to cost. And, Andrew's told me that they're working hard to try to obtain some kind of funds through maybe urban development or maybe other sources. But, at that point, when they got to open their doors, if the infrastructure is not in, then is my tenant not going to get a CO? Do we get more time? I got to be able to understand what I'm obligated to before I just say, oh yeah, here's a blank check. Is this for 50,000 or is it for $1 million? And so that's, and again, I don't know if they've obtained any funds or how long that may take. It may take a year. We don't have that luxury to have Starbucks wait a year till funds arrive.
I'm going to move on to
offset
Council
these.
Maestri, unless you're Council Maestri.
Thank you, Randy, for coming today. And, you served 8 years on council way back when. What I feel like I see here is, under a city manager, it's their expertise in running a municipality, and they're tied into those departments because that's what they went to college for. That's where their experience lies.
Correct.
And they can bring policy to a council when they say that significant changes need to be made. And that's kind of what's been missing in this equation. And council's not going to understand. They couldn't even, if they have had no experience working with, I sit on the Pueblo Regional Board, and I didn't even know that that's never been discussed on the board, whose COs are being tied up. I guess, if if I know of a project, I can ask of what's going on. So that's not like, it's not unusual. The council would not hear that. We're not, those reports are not sent to us. And so I would think that council there, okay, so I worked with regional personally in my career till 2001. I had the luxury of working across the nation in different municipalities, getting my projects approved through the process. And so I really never, to me, I've experienced holdups everywhere across the nation. So what are those holdups specifically is what council needs to know in order to change those policies. What the, I mean, I know contractors here that say that they have problems getting their things done, but we have to come up with in order for council to do this, we have to come up with the experts that come to the table and say, this is how process is going to run better. And we need these policies put in place so that we can, move forward. Now, I don't know how Culver's got to do that and how the car wash and what infrastructure they have. I was high in residential. If I'm buying out on 40-acre sites and I'm at the end of the cul-de-sac, and nobody's in front of me, guess what? I have to pay for all those electric lines to go from across all those 40-acre lots. And then as they move in, they have to reimburse me, right?
Correct.
Yeah. And so I don't know how that's all going to work here, but those are the things we need to know. But to come here and say that council needs to put policies in place, I don't disagree with you, because we need to get to the bottom of this. This has been an issue election after election after election. And it's okay, it's no point in changing the players if you can't change the game. So how this is addressed, and if it's means having a study to show what it is that we're doing differently so bad down here compared to the other regions around the state, around the country, that needs to be lined out. And then we need to decide how we're going to change those, make the policy changes within to change this, because I'm tired of hearing about it, right? We all are. The whole community's tired of hearing about it. And so now action needs to be taken, some sort of action. So maybe as a council, we need to discuss whether we
I know you had a question in there. Did you you asked him a question? Did you get a chance to respond to her question?
Well, I agree as far as the policy's hard to come by, but if you talk to me with all the people that have been involved in doing business and left because they couldn't do business, I can generate the experts and the policies that you can decide whether they make sense or not.
Mm-hmm.
And so so that piece can come together, but then does that happen at another work session where we just talk policy?
But we're going to have to, right? We're going to
I think so.
we're going to have to do that. But we have to see within our legal what we need to do, because a citizens group of changing policy, I'm going to tell you, everybody's going to have an idea, but an expertise, I've seen when I go to the conferences and so forth, they have expertise consulting firms
Right.
as vendors, and they're going to come in and they're going to tell you what you need to change. Now, I think we have for the codes that are coming out, we have a study coming up. And I don't know if within that study, they're going to, don't we have a study coming up that we've paid for already that they're working on? They just came. Yeah, they're just redoing the codes. And would that help? Yeah, the building codes. But how it wouldn't, there could be something in there that can help us with that. I don't know, because they're still working on it.
Well, I would like to furnish the information and policies to go with that, because we're also caught in one of those codes right now from 1968 that says that council cannot intervene on this process of subdivision getting a legal description. We even brought somebody in from Colorado Springs who was a planning director for El Paso County, and he left pulling his hair out like, are you serious? And as a result, we're not able to sell off prime B3 property at the 24th and the Boulevard until these codes get finished, and we don't even know what the outcome is going to be. And it's a very simple thing that you stamp a no build subdivision because it's in a state, so they're not in a position of doing the subdivision. And a no build allows the new buyer of the land to come in and do a full subdivision. No corners cut, anything. And we've been held up with that forever. And again, this is probably the first time council's hearing about this.
Yeah. Okay. You good, Regina?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, let's go, age before beauty. Let's talk Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the report. Thank you for coming to Pueblo and investing in our community. That's a big deal, and
All right.
I'm really happy that you did. You know, I think the process of how a city council works needs to be very, very much in the forefront of this. City council has no day-to-day back and forth with administrators, with department heads. They do the city's business. I've been very involved with community development for 6 years now. And I want to give you some examples. Just since the mayor's been elected and I got elected, so we're now 15 months into it, I've probably been contacted 4 or 5 times with a problem. Once I hear the problem, I send it off to the mayor's office. The mayor's office contacts the department head. We have a meeting and we figure it out. Of all of those times that somebody contacted me with a problem, and I'm only speaking for myself, I have no idea what happens with other counselors. Anytime that has happened, we fixed it. If it was a problem that could be fixed. And I can't remember one time where we didn't get it fixed. So what happens is that developers and builders or whoever is in the process tries to fix everything themselves and then gets frustrated because they feel that they're not getting anywhere. They're not getting any help. They're not anything. And literally, I don't hear about it till it gets to the point of, oh my gosh, we're gonna lose 2 businesses or whatever. I know on this specific one
Sure.
that this has been on the radar for over 60 or 90 days that I know of. I was involved in one meeting of getting this resolved, and you probably weren't even aware of that. But it's happening. So I kind of took exception for the fact of, council, you don't know, this needs to come to your attention. When it comes to my attention, I try and get help and get to the area where we can get it fixed. The other problem is you have 7 counselors, and other than Counselor Maestri, not one of us has any experience in construction, but we all have experience in fixing problems. So if you bring us a problem, it's our duty, and it's what we like to do, is to be able to help fix this. So it's not surprising that none of us knew about the CO, but it's surprising that nobody came to one of us and says, hey, I'm having a problem getting a CO. Can you help me? Where we could have initiated some kind of conversation and bringing people together, creating a collaboration, coming up with a plan and making it happen. Because I know for a fact over the past 15 months, and I want to reiterate that not only for you,
Sure.
but any other developer that's listening, there is nobody on this council or in that administration that does not want to build and to develop and for the community to grow and be good. I get it. There's areas where we could be better, where we could do things differently. But if you need help, I
Yeah.
hope people would just feel free to reach out to their city council.
That'd be appreciated. And for me being from New Mexico, Albuquerque. I don't know a lot of the people or the powers that be, so to speak, here. So I've just gone through the channels that I know. And
I
again,
hear you.
it's Andrew, and I'm not saying I know he's working at trying to get resolved, but time's ticking and we're getting to the end. And I just don't want to be at the last minute at the last area saying, hey, no infrastructure, no CO, and no Starbucks. So,
We're here for you.
all right.
If you need
Appreciate
anything
that.
else, if we
Let's-
can help you in any way,
and
please
yeah,
reach out.
thank you.
And I'm sure that the mayor, and I'm not going to speak for her or anybody else, but I can guarantee you they're ready to help you too in any way they can. So.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Boston.
I'll let the mayor chime in
Excuse me,
first.
excuse me, Mayor.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to chime in that this project, Mr. Martinez, should not be familiar to the city council because we talked about this about 6 weeks ago when we talked about using half-cent sales tax dollars to put in the infrastructure on the boulevard, in which I listed not just your establishments, but also the tire shop,
Sure.
Whataburger, Maverick, and any other business that's coming on the boulevard. And I think specifically what I was told by council is we shouldn't use half-cent sales tax dollars to incentivize fast food restaurants, is what I was told. I don't believe that they knew all the deals about what the infrastructure looked like, that they thought we were just talking about incentivizing businesses to come to town, but that's not what it was. Everybody was very aware that your CO has been held up because of an access permit, which has nothing to do with the city of Pueblo. That is specific to CDOT. And since you contacted my office 6 months ago, this is how long you've probably been held up,
Yeah.
correct?
It's been a bit. Yeah.
My departments have been working very hard to try to figure out a funding source in order to get the infrastructure in, because we agree with you.
Yeah.
We don't think it should be put on one developer. We've been working with Urban Renewal. I can't even tell you how many meetings that I have had
Yeah.
with Urban Renewal, with the city departments in order to get your doors open, sir.
I
So this is
appreciate
not
that.
a holdup on the city of Pueblo.
Got it.
This is a CDOT issue, and we're going to continue to work and try to find a funding source because you're right. It doesn't impede your business
Yes.
or the other businesses, Randy, that you spoke about. This is all up and down the Boulevard corridor, and that's where all the businesses are coming right now. Right, Randy?
Absolutely.
And so we need to fix something. We need to strategize. If we can't bring jobs here through Pedco, then we need to look at using those half-cent sales tax dollars in order to build infrastructure to incentivize businesses that come into the community. So this is something that you've all been made aware of, that I know that I've sat right here and talked to you. Some of you have been in the meetings. I think Brett has. Mark, you've been in several of the meetings. We hear you. We're trying to help. We want a speedy development too for you, and we want your businesses to open, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And again, all I want is kind of, a game plan or resolve, because again, time's ticking and, I'm sure if we got to get a temporary CO, whatever we got to do to work through the hurdles, I'm willing to contribute my fair share. I just don't think the burden should be on me and the timeline. So anything you can do is appreciated.
Councilor Boston, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, everything that she just said, I was going to say, so I don't have anything now. I'm just kidding. No, those were a lot of the things that I was going to bring up. If you remember during the retreat, we had discussions about this. This is one of the reasons why I was going to talk about reallocation of Pedco dollars. It's not to incentivize fast food businesses to get here, it's to invest in city infrastructure to allow more businesses to open up here. We want to talk about tourism. The boulevard could be a huge hotspot for people to get off of I-25 instead of moving up to every other city north of here. All this development going in is going to be a good thing for the community. I know me personally, I go to Chipotle all the time. Those lines get ridiculous after 5 o'clock. It'd be great to have a second location. But I appreciate you gentlemen coming here today. We could sit here and, spew kind of the same thing that we always say, that we're trying, and we definitely are. But as Mark said, you can say that sticking at 100,000, people and not being like Gary, Indiana and going down is a good thing. Well, why not strive for better? We could always get better. We could always try to do more. We are doing what we can, but there is always room for improvement. I know even before I got on council, I've had developers coming to me, talking to me about issues they've had, with anything from the bluffs and so on. So I think finding ways to help these projects get streamlined, trying to find ways to cut through the red tape and, invite development here, like all the other councilors have said, this is something we want to support. This is something we want to help with. I know, I've heard about this project recently, about some of the hurdles you've had to jump through. But besides that, like Mark said, I haven't had a lot of things brought to my attention directly. So I know all of us that are willing to help. We are trying to help. We want more development in Pueblo, and anything we can do to help, we will do so. It's unfortunate, the situation you've had to be put through. But, if the city can invest, like you said, maybe it's $1 million to get in this infrastructure, we get 6 more businesses out of it. I think that's something that would be a benefit to the community. Anything we can do to help, I think we would. But I think it's important bringing these issues here so that we can try to find more ways to help fix this process like we have started to do, but there's always more work to be done.
Councilor Latino, please.
Yes, I'm not sure if you're familiar or not. We had a presentation here a couple of weeks ago by the Vice President of Finance, Financial Officer, Colorado State University Pueblo, about the projected development that they're looking to do on the northeast side of town. And I would hope that you would get in touch with them, because obviously there's going to be a great growth there. That university is growing. We have young people and they're there to enjoy the community and spend money. And so they're putting together a development. I would hope that you will get in touch with Garrison Ortiz. There's some things that are in the planning stages there, and it would really be beneficial to the northeast side of this community, because we're trying to do some good things out there and move this community forward.
That'd
Thank
be
you.
Great. Thanks.
Councilor Maestro, please.
The one thing you did mention was Pura Dollars, and I know that that is a Pura district.
Correct.
And it's already, I think, what is it due next year or something? It's up next year. Where are the Pura Dollars? Where's that account at? Why aren't we using Pura Dollars out of that account? It's a 25-year-old account. There should be money there. Why aren't we allocating those funds to get this done immediately, rather than having to wait for a November election? And also, because I asked you about that, I wanted to know, where does Pura stand with this, and where's that account, and why can't we get those funds immediately moved into this, and why can't we renew that account or that district, that TIF district? The other thing too is, well, it's a whole nother time, but I don't know that this council was against fast foods as much as they were to reallocate that 50-cent sales tax to a new company, a new economic development organization that was going to change economic development here in Pueblo, if we're taking it from Petco. And so, and I think that was the argument that evening, that the city doesn't take it over and decide what the city wants to do with it, but we go into work with another professional expertise organization partner to see how those dollars are going to be spent. And with all that said, thank you, Mr. Martinez, correct?
Yes.
For doing business and coming to Pueblo and trying to build.
Give you
here.
guys the last comment. We're kind of running over too much time here. Last comment, and we'll conclude.
I'll make a last comment real quick, that there's no criticism with me coming and sharing this, because being on city council, you really need to know firsthand. And just like with Mark said, if something comes to him, I have mentioned to Mark about the 24th and the Boulevard situation with the legal descriptions, and we're still held up. I think collectively, if we look at how we can have a process in place that council's aware, working with the mayor's office, and then having more connection with, in this case, would be Andrew Hayes. So it's just looking for the solution, and with the Pura, it really is the best vehicle to use tax dollars in the future to fund it now instead of tax dollars. But I don't know how you guys will figure that out, but I think that's the direction on it.
Okay. And again, I'd like to thank everybody again for everything. I feel like the general message is received. Everybody's excited about this. Everybody's pro-development. Everybody wants to see things move along, as do I. I think it's just a matter of how can we get this done in the time frame that we're faced with, without holding things up and without delaying. So, and anything you guys can do to communicate with me or to help me, at least to say, hey, if nothing else, we'll get these guys open for business while we figure out funding or figure out the details. That's all I need to know. I'm glad to be patient and continue moving towards a end goal of getting this thing done. So.
Okay, you good,
Yeah, thank
Regina? Excuse me, Council, let's get Council Fords and then we'll catch you up.
I just have one quick question to our legal counsel. It's very usual for us to ask contractors to put a performance bond together to make sure that the buildings are completed. This is the first I've heard where a developer's been asked for a performance bond. I hadn't seen that come up during my tenure on city council, or in my other life in which I was involved in executing contract bonds. Can somebody, can you get back to us and indicate to me why we asked a developer for a bond. Normally, it's general contractors that we do.
Absolutely. We'll prepare
Yeah.
something for council.
I just want to ask for that question.
Is that it?
Thank you.
Okay, folks, I think we're going to conclude. Thank you, Mr. Martinez, for coming all the way out. Thank you, Mr. Thurston.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Now we're going to move up to the next item on the agenda is Agenda C, Solutions Outreach Services. We got Tia Miller, Vice President of Specialty Services, and Rochelle Brown, Outreach and Engagement Supervisor. Thank you guys for coming. Put your mics on.
All right, so I'm Rochelle Brown, and again, I'm the Supervisor of Outreach and Engagement, which includes our SOS team, which is Solution Outreach Services.
And I'm Tia Miller, Vice President of Specialty Services. Nice to be here this evening.
All right, so basically, the mission with Health Solutions, we are committed to offering exceptional quality services that set the standard for healthcare in Colorado. And with the SOS team, basically our goal was to answer calls to service for the Pueblo Police Department for individuals in need of non-urgent medical or behavioral health support. And our core values are compassion, equality, and sustainability. So the history of the program is that we partnered with the Pueblo Police Department and stood up our first team in September of 2023. And this is an alternative intervention for any community member who reaches out to the Pueblo Police Department dispatch and is in need of behavioral health support and does not require a police officer. And so with this, what we're kind of looking at is one, we're reducing calls that would historically require a police officer being taken away from more critical calls. And then we're connecting these people to a more appropriate resource. And I also think we're helping people not get worked up because sometimes when they see a police officer, that gets them kind of a little more anxious. The SOS team consists of a clinician, which is a master's level or licensed, an EMS personnel, which is a certified EMT or paramedic, and then we have a peer that has lived experience and an advocate for the person. And they drive around in this very large white van. And the services we provide are brief behavioral health interventions. We provide some brief first aid intervention, resources, support, and we connect them to services. So the nature of our calls are basically low-level calls. If the dispatchers do have a decision tree to decide if it's appropriate for the SOS team to take the call. And so if the call does not have a weapon involved, it does not have the person being violent or aggressive, and there's not a medical need, then SOS can go to this call. And so you can see right now, this, again, from September of 23, we took data through the end of February of this year, and 60% of our calls pretty much are welfare checks. So this could be a lot of different things. This could be a family member calling that they can't get a hold of their elderly father and they don't live in the state and he's not answering his phone. So we can go and knock on the door and take that off of the police officers, list there. Or it could be somebody calling saying that someone's kind of just acting weird, and so they kind of want a welfare check on them. And so we do that as well. If they're suicidal, again, as long as they don't have a weapon and they have not actually attempted, then we will go to that call. A citizen assist is someone who can just call in and maybe saying, hey, I need resources, whatever that might look like. An unwanted party or trespassing, that might be a call. I like to give the example, like maybe Walgreens or 7-Eleven calls and says, I don't want to trust that past this person, but I'd like them to move along. They're not leaving. And so the SOS team doesn't come as a authority figure. They come in to say, what resources might you need? How can we help? These people don't really want you here anymore. And what can we do to kind of help the situation? And then walker stops. We don't do as many of those because we're trying to be available for the officers' calls, but that's kind of more of a proactive approach. So if we see someone that's holding a sign, the team will consult with each other and decide if they feel it's safe to approach that person. They kind of go up to them, hi, this is who we are. Is there anything we can help you with? And try to engage them that way. So this is telling you that we have responded to 1,064 calls for the police department. So that is how many calls we have taken off their plate. And that is actually just with one team working 3 days a week. So we've really helped out a lot. A lot of people ask about the CIT co-responders. And they still are around and doing well. So a CIT co-responder is a clinician that goes out with an officer, and they wear a bulletproof vest, things like that. They're going to go to much higher level calls. They do require that law enforcement officer to be with them. There might be weapons. The person might be aggressive, things like that. Whereas SOS, again, they're not going to go, they're en route within about 10 to 15 minutes, maybe immediately, but there are no weapons, again, no aggressive behavior. They do have a police radio, but they're not wearing a bulletproof vest or anything like that. And they're gonna, again, they're that clinician, that EMS staff and a peer. And then we do have MECE and Crisis. So MECE is our mobile early intervention services. And they've been around for quite a while, but I think people forget about them, but they are referral based. And so SOS and CIT might refer to them to follow up after the fact. And they respond to referrals within about 24 hours. And they really are kind of a bridge to care. So if someone kind of needs that little additional support, or maybe they already are in care, but they could just use some extra support, they go out to their home and kind of work with them. And they don't take them on as a client full time or anything like that. They're just a brief intervention. And then we do have crisis services. So our crisis services, if the person does need higher level of care, we can call for the mobile crisis unit to come out to them if that's appropriate, or if it's more appropriate for us to take them to the crisis unit, we can do that as well. So whatever is best for that person. Okay. Some of the outcomes with some of the calls, one thing is that just because it's a call doesn't mean we only see one person. So we've had an additional 131 people in those calls of service. And one thing that we noted with this was that after seeing SOS, whether it be a day later or a few months later, we had 197 people enroll with Health Solutions after encountering our team. So who knows how many, I mean, we refer to whomever, wherever they want to go. We just want them to get services. So who knows how many enrolled in other places as well. So I think that's great that we've planted a seed and they've actually sought services somewhere. If it says that they went to the emergency department, that does not mean we necessarily took them. We only transport to the emergency room if it's just mental health and that's where they want to go and they're going voluntarily. But crisis services may have been contacted. We may have taken them to the shelter or to detox. But as you can see, a lot of them, we're providing them with referrals for outpatient treatment, providing psychoeducation and resources. And then we do have some that say, I don't need any of your resources. So, and that's fine.
Okay.
And actually, I went back to that. I wanted to kind of tell you guys a little bit about some of the calls because I think a couple of them are pretty heartfelt. SOS had been dispatched out to an elderly couple with a gentleman who had fallen, and the family member wasn't able to reach them. So they got to the door. They were greeted by the wife, who was also an elderly woman, and they found that he was bedridden, but on the couch. But they said, oh, we're fine. We're okay. She's taking care of him. They went ahead and stayed a little bit longer just to kind of make sure everything was okay. And as they continued to stay and build rapport, they found out that actually she had recently fallen as well and was in a lot of pain, but she didn't want to leave her husband. And he didn't want to go to the hospital either. And so again, we stayed, just continued to build rapport with them. And we were able to convince both of them that going to the hospital might be the best option for them, even the husband. And so then she was willing to go. So we contacted 2 ambulances to come and pick them up. And when they got there, the gentleman kind of got a little nervous, and our EMT had really established a good rapport with him. And he asked her if she would hold his hand and ride with him. And ambulance, AMR was great. And they were happy to allow our EMT to ride in the back with him to the hospital. We followed and provided collateral information to the ER so they would know what was going on. But I kind of think that, you know, who knows what would have happened had we not stayed and kind of investigated a little more. You know, the AMR staff basically said they were both failure to thrive. So I just feel like that was a good story that we were able to kind of step in and get them hopefully the help that they needed. I just feel like SOS continues to alleviate, you know, a significant burden from law enforcement by handling, you know, these welfare checks, addressing these mental health concerns, and, you know, getting these people the correct resources that they need. We had a guy the other day that a welfare check was called in by his primary care, and he said, "Oh, well, it's a good thing it's you guys, because if the police would have shown up here, I would have been really angry." And it's understandable because it was more for his medical care and mental health. And so that would have really upset him to see an officer show up. So, you know, Chief Knoller has, you know, said it's really has been helped to take these things off of their shoulders, that things that they're not really equipped for. And he always says, you know, we're not social workers. So we're able to kind of help with that. The other thing, it goes back to our unhoused population, is that we do see a lot of that. And so we enter information into the homeless management information system. And so we do have some data here of under the age of 18.6%. And, you know, I thought that this was possibly like children that were with the families, and Tia said, no, you know, this is people that your team saw that were just by themselves, unaccompanied, you know, maybe like 17, 16-year-old things like that. So some very vulnerable people out there that are homeless. And then our 65 plus, the 11.1%. And of course, you can see the rest of them for the percentages. So I just kind of wanted to come and tell you guys about this great team that's out there really trying to help our community and help alleviate so our police officers can respond to, you know, things they should be able to respond to instead of these other calls.
Okay, I'm going to leave it open to questions from the council. Any? Sarah, Council Martinez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you both for that presentation. I remember when this was just an idea 3 years ago.
I think it was actually only, I'm trying to recall, because we of course did the presentation earlier on when we first stood up the first team. And I was trying to call, I think it was April of 2023 when the STAR team from
Denver Star
presented.
Team.
That's correct. And then we were able to get the first team up by September 2023. So I thought that was a fairly quick turnaround for that. And we are currently actually building onto the second team at this point. So we are expanding to a second team.
Well, first of all, I want to commend you for your fast work on just standing up the first team. I know that was an unexpected ask from council and from the city and PD. And I think it goes to show that when there is need, Health Solutions will help fill that. So now that this has been a couple of years, I'm curious for the data that you showed earlier, Rochelle. So that was around, I just did quick math. It was around 353 calls per month over that timeline. How does that compare to when it first was started? Because I remember when it was first started, it wasn't necessarily like their calls were relatively low, but I think that it was because, you know, we were still getting used to the system.
I think early on, some of the officers don't, you know, anytime there's something new, they don't always know that they can call us for a certain call. So we do track month by month data. And so we do have it trended, and it does definitely, and some of it could be seasonal. There's all kinds of things that can impact the call volume. But I think to some extent, because I recall when the first team got online, they they didn't know if they could call out SOS and there was we had some, because we were doing some trainings, so the hours were changing. So that's on us that we were changing the hours sometimes week by week. We were trying to find the right fit and the right time because we could only cover 3 days a week. So that first month, there was a little bit of moving around of our team to find the right day of the week that would meet the need.
Mhm.
And so that probably contributed to
I
whether
remember
they,
that.
yeah,
Yep.
whether they could call SOS out or not. And so now that it's definitely more stable, our hours, and they are aware of our availability, I think that certainly increased the call volume.
And also, the SOS team has access to the CAD system, which is the police department's system to see the calls. So if dispatch is inundated with calls and maybe they're having a hard time dispatching the team out, they can actually see a call and say, oh, this one's appropriate for us, and they can put themselves on the call.
Okay.
So that actually helps a lot as
Great.
well.
I was saying, a couple years ago, Mayor, remember when you were the president at the time, we met with Denver Star. And then immediately Health Solutions stepped up and filled that role from Denver Star. And I can't get over. I think it's such a great program. I'm so lucky that we have this. I make referrals out all the time. You know, when I see someone in distress that I think could use some sort of behavioral health care, I make referrals to you guys all the time. And I'm really excited to hear that you guys are expanding to 2 teams. Will that cover 3 additional days in the week?
Yeah, yeah. Eventually we'll cover 6 days per week.
Will be Monday through Saturday.
That's great. What's the timeline on that?
When we can hire the person.
Okay. That's the limiting factor there?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Well, great job.
Thank you.
Councilor Maestri.
In your hours?
Currently,
Yes, currently.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Oh, okay. So just out of curiosity, because the story about the elderly couple and getting them to the hospital is obviously a great thing, right? But do they have follow-up services to get them back? Who handles the follow-up service, or a medical advocate that gets them, medical beds for the living room instead of a couch and all their necessities that they need? Are there teams that follow behind that in the system, not necessarily Health Solutions, but in the system?
Right. For them, what we did was we talked with the ER, because they do have discharge planners in the
Okay.
ER. And so that's what we wanted them to know, like they need more than what just going home like they
Mhm.
are.
Okay, good.
So in that case, but Health Solutions does have also teams that help with that. So this was actually a story from very early on
Mhm.
when we were first started the team. But yeah, we have other, and even MEAS, I mean, not that they would necessarily get the medical equipment set up, but for someone who needed more mental health follow-up, things like
Mhm.
that, we have care coordinators through Health Solutions that are nurses that can help make sure that things are set up. But yeah, that is why we definitely followed to the hospital, not only just to pick up our staff that was in the
Yeah.
ambulance, but to make sure that report was given and for them to understand what was going on in the home,
Mhm.
so they could make sure that they were discharged with the correct
Mhm.
resources.
Great. Yeah, that's what I was just wondering, if there's like a list of resources out there that get them back home, get them settled in their
Our peer
house.
specialist has a very robust, you should see her
Good.
file cabinet of
Mhm.
resources.
Good.
That
good.
our peer advocate can do a lot of that follow-up and make sure that they are connected to those resources.
That's good. That's awesome. Thank you.
Councilor Martinez.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, one more. The barrier question sparked in my mind another question around, as you're expanding to 6 days a week, is there anything that you need from the city at this time that would be helpful? I'll take a no. That's fine.
Honestly, I can't think of anything. The nice thing about the second team is that, we work with the city on getting like the radios and the CAD equipment and all that stuff. With a second team, they can just use the same equipment. So it's not having to have additional equipment because they're going to be opposite shifts. If we were to do a team where they would overlap and they wouldn't be able to share equipment, that would be a different story probably at that time. But at this point, there is no additional equipment requirement. There's no additional vehicle requirements because they're able to work on the opposite of the week of the other team.
I got a couple of things I'd like to throw out unless anybody's got something else. Are you guys a nonprofit, I take it?
Yes.
Yes.
Correct. You're kind of near and dear to my heart. And it's something I'm proud of. I don't know if you ever worked, do you ever work with a COVA?
Yes.
Okay, COVA, Community Organization for Victim Assistance, I'm proud to say was my baby as the creator found. I'm very proud of it. It's been going. And I hope you guys are as good as we were, because if we were going like 34 years, you got a little bit of way to go, but you guys sound like mirror programs to me. I mean, good. We took the victimology element out of the police department and law enforcement altogether. And we had a lot of resistance initially, but then after a while, they said, hey, this is not bad stuff. If you have any problems with resistance, is everything going pretty well? Do you need help in that area?
No, the police officers have been great, as they've, learned that they can rely on us. I think it's been a good relationship. So, and the people we encounter, I mean, it just depends. Some of them are not as receptive, but most of them are.
So right now you're self-sustaining, I take it?
Right.
You do grant work? Do you
We-
do fundraisers? Do you do?
Yeah, so currently, one of the teams is funded by a grant, and then our goal is to sustain the team. So services, if the person has Medicaid, we can bill out the service, and then that helps sustain the program long term. And so that's our ultimate goal, because we don't want to rely solely on grant funding, because we want it to be self-sustaining, because that always shows the success of a program. When a program can be self-sustaining and doesn't need to rely on any other funding. But at this point, the program is covered by a grant funding through the end of next fiscal year. So
Great. And I have no problem with grants. Like I always try to make sure people understand we're talking about taxpayer funded grants. And so the community's behind you, there's money that's coming through it, it's coming from taxpayers. And the fact that you're trying to do it on your own and get sustainable, that makes me very happy. Thank you for the presentation. Anybody have anything else? Mayor, you good? Everybody else good? Appreciate you guys' time and thanks for showing up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, you guys ready to go for another round here? Mark, excuse me, something?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Something that has been on my mind for several years that it's finally come up, and I reached out to Mr. Gifford in the legal department because I had searched through the charter and our city code, and I couldn't find anything that was that would stop us from doing this. And what I'm talking about specifically, coming up in November, we have a city councilor at large seat. That city councilor at large seat traditionally has as many candidates who want to run it for the seat, and then the top two candidates by vote end up elected to city council. If you look historically through the votes, that whenever that particular seat is up for election, the number of undervotes is huge. 8,000 in 2017, 13,000 undervotes in 2021. If you look at every other specific seat, very few undervotes, maybe 600, 700, 1,000. If it gets high, it's 1,200, something like that. So my thought process through this was everybody who gets a ballot for all of their adult life mostly has been taught that when you see names on a ballot, you pick one and you go to the next one. You pick one, you go to the next one. Even if you put the directions on there that pick two, it seems like through history that people are just confused by that and pick one. And that's why you get the undervotes. So I went to the law department and I asked the question. I said, would it be legal and okay if you took that seat and made it two seats? You had city council at large, seat number 1, city council at large, seat number 2. And then whoever was running for those seats, for instance, Councilor Boston is seat 1. And then Dennis Flores is seat 2. And whoever wanted to run for either one of those seats would run for those seats, but it would be one person for each each ballot. Does that make sense, what I'm saying? I don't want to confuse everybody. I think it's more fair. And that the number of undervotes would completely be reduced. And Mr. Gifford, do you want to talk about that at all?
Thank you, Counselor. The only thing I would add is this process known as a plurality at large. It's kind of common and it's always just existed. And in doing some research, I really couldn't figure out why this was chosen nationwide. In the city, it appears to have been chosen because when our charter was created, they elected all 7 city council members, and the lowest vote getter of the at-large seats served a smaller term and then stood for re-election. The ones who gathered the most votes stood for a full term and then were reelected. So it just kind of created the situation where we were doing plurality at large from the very beginning, even though there's nothing in charter, nothing in code, and nothing in statute that requires that type of election. So when Councilor Aliff brought this to me, our recommendation was that if this is something City Council wanted to pursue, this is something they could do as a policy matter by amending the municipal code. The other possibility, and this would be more difficult, but maybe cleaner, would be a charter amendment that would elect one at-large for a shorter term, thus staggering all of the at-large seats. So every other year, you're voting for one at-large member, as opposed to breaking up 2 at-large seats to separate kind of at-large elections. That wasn't the question that Councilor Aliff asked, but that's just another option as well. Thank you.
So there's no ordinance coming forward or anything else like that, because I thought we ought to have a conversation about that. If City Council has an appetite to move forward with that, then we could move forward with it. So I just open it up for discussion if anybody wants to talk about it.
Councilor Boston.
Thank you, Chair.
Oh,
So the only thing I would say is, I think some people may announce seat 1, let's say, like you said. And then let's say there's an incumbent or, a party that seems to have a lot of support, and then somebody else wants to announce this, they might try to go seat 2 because they think they have a better chance of winning. But then, I don't know, I kind of feel like it might make it a little more difficult. Some people would want to swap between seat 1, seat 2, once they hear other people announcing. I don't know what the stipulations would be. Once you announce for one, can you announce for another? I don't know. I think it might add some confusion for potentially people trying to enter the race, maybe for certain people trying to vote as well. Maybe, I don't know if maybe this isn't a good idea either, printing it on the ballot twice. You vote for a person once here and then they select a different person, and the same election that's on the the same set of names printed a second time. Maybe they choose one in this one and they just don't choose the same person in the second one. I don't know if that creates an issue counting the same vote twice. That way, I'm not getting 2 votes from the same person. I don't know, it might just add a little more confusion potentially, but I understand what you're saying, because a lot of people don't read the directions. They're used to voting for one person per item, and that causes a lot of what you're saying. But those are just my initial thoughts off of what you were saying.
City Clerk Stoll, you have anything you want to add to that? I'm kind of curious.
I would say that I would be concerned about last minute signups, about everyone jockeying for which seat they would be sitting for. It's a lot more of a strategic decision then, rather than trying to go out and get the votes. I don't know what we would do if, as far as them declaring their positions and then switching, or if they were able to switch, or if there would be a time where you had to stop switching. And it does seem like it would be a lot of confusion, and I would be concerned about that. The other item that I would kind of be concerned about is if you do have those 2 separate seats, you would potentially have, one seat where you have 2 candidates, and you have one candidate that gets 10,000 votes and one candidate that gets 9,000 votes. And then you would have a second seat where one candidate gets 5,000 votes and the second candidate gets 4,000 votes. So instead of the 2 candidates that have the most votes getting those seats, you would have a candidate that got 5,000 votes, 3,000 less than the second runner-up of the other seat. And that person, that 9,000 vote person would not be elected. So I mean, it's definitely something that you'd have to kind of take in consideration. As far as the undervotes go, my understanding is that a lot of council members who are running at large tell their voters not to vote for anyone else because it's to their benefit if they only vote for one candidate. So I don't know that it's entirely knowable if the reason that there are so many undervotes would be because people aren't reading the directions necessarily. I'm sure that is the case for a number of them, but I don't know that that's entirely it, because I am aware that a lot of at-large candidates tell them not to vote for any other candidate if they really want them to be the candidate, because that second vote, you know, counts the same because it's not ranked choice, right? So that second vote counts the same and could potentially put that other person above them.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Maestri, then Councilor Ayala. President Ayala.
What about the other years on the undervotes? Because 2021, you know, was a weird year. We had lower, like a low voter turnout. People were still wearing masks. There was still a bunch of the, you know, COVID stuff left over that year. And that was a concern for a lot of people. People were still concerned about COVID.
I'm afraid I don't have any of that information. No one asked me.
Yeah, because I was saying 2021 is a kind of a weird year to kind of make this decision off of it. But then we're changing it, and guess what? Everybody that's used to doing two might just do one, and we may end up with undervotes again, you know, so I see what Counselor Aliff is saying, but that one is gonna have to really be marketed to the public because they're used to just checking two boxes, you know, and then they'll get to another one and they'll just go, oh, well, they think they're gonna pick two more. Who knows? Because people just go through ballots sometimes. Not everybody, but there are some.
Okay, President, good.
Mhm.
President Ayala, please.
I think Councilor Flores has some.
I just had, I think this is worthy of more analysis, because I didn't know this topic was going to come up, but I certainly think it's worthy of us studying it more and looking at it, you know, in a very serious way. And then the other question is, would ranked choice voting solve the problem in that large thing, where people will be instructed to rank people so that there wouldn't be this gap? I mean, they would be forced to rank the top three. But wouldn't that also solve the problem? So I'd like to study it more.
Yeah, we got some
My
time to
head's
think
not in the
about it.
right place right now.
President Ayala.
That's good. I just wanted to get everybody's temperature on it. If we get some more information, we'll just bring it forward and share it with you and see if you want to move forward.
Anybody else? Any other comments? Sarah, you good? Everybody's good?
7.
Okay, we're going to adjourn and we're going to return here at 7:15. That was good.